Long before the bright studio lights flickered to life and the familiar music of today echoes through the halls of Rockefeller Plaza, Al Roker begins his morning in a way few viewers would ever imagine, not with scripts or weather maps, but with silence. At this stage of his life, after decades spent greeting America before sunrise, the ritual has become less about preparing for television and more about preparing his spirit for the day ahead. The alarm on his phone hums softly in the darkness, sometime around 3:45 a.m., a sound he has heard for most of his adult life. Yet instead of jumping immediately into motion the way he once did in his younger years, Al now sits quietly at the edge of the bed for a moment, letting the stillness settle around him. In those first few minutes, the world feels suspended. No cameras, no forecasts, no deadlines, just a quiet reminder that another morning has arrived. For a man approaching his 70s, those quiet seconds carry a meaning they never held when he was younger. They feel like a gift. From the kitchen window of his apartment in New York, the skyline is often dark and nearly empty, the city that never sleeps finally pausing for breath, and Al has come to treasure that rare calm. He pours a simple cup of coffee and sits at the small table where the city lights shimmer faintly against the glass, and there he practices what he gently calls spiritual silence. It is not tied to any particular ceremony or script, no elaborate prayers or formal meditation, but rather a quiet conversation with the day itself. Sometimes he reflects on gratitude. Sometimes he simply breathes and listens to the hum of the early morning. Over the years, he has learned that the noise of the world, especially the constant urgency of news and weather, can pull a person away from themselves if they allow it. Those few silent minutes, he believes, bring him back to center. His wife, Deborah Roberts, often wakes not long after, moving gently through the apartment with the quiet familiarity of someone who understands the rhythm of early broadcasting life. Deborah, herself a seasoned journalist, recognizes the importance of those moments of stillness and rarely interrupts them. Instead, she offers a warm smile or a soft good morning as she passes through the kitchen, sometimes leaving a reassuring hand on his shoulder before beginning her own routine. Their mornings together are simple, but deeply grounding. Two people who have spent decades in demanding careers, sharing a quiet understanding that life, especially later in its chapters, is best approached with patience rather than haste. For viewers in their 60s watching from homes across the country, that kind of ritual might feel deeply familiar. Many have discovered that as the years pass, the most meaningful moments are often the quietest ones. The early morning cup of coffee, the familiar creak of the house waking up, the sense that time itself has slowed just enough to be appreciated. Al often thinks about those viewers while he sits in silence, imagining someone in Ohio or Arizona beginning their own morning at the same time he is beginning his. In some small way, he feels connected to them, even before the broadcast begins. Eventually, the clock reminds him that the quiet window is closing. The car arrives to take him to the studio, and as the city begins to stir, he steps outside into the crisp air, carrying with him the calm he gathered during those early minutes. Inside the studio, everything moves quickly. The producers discussing segments, the technicians adjusting lights, the familiar buzz of live television preparation. But Al approaches it differently now than he once did. Years ago, he might have felt the tension immediately, the urgency of performing perfectly for millions of viewers. Now, however, that earlier silence acts like a quiet shield, reminding him that the broadcast is only one part of the morning, not the whole of it. As he reviews the weather graphics and chats with colleagues, a steady calm remains beneath the surface. When the countdown finally begins and the cameras prepare to roll, Al often takes one more slow breath. It is a small gesture, invisible to the audience, yet it carries the same intention as his kitchen ritual, a reminder to be present. The red camera light flickers on, and suddenly he is once again the familiar face millions of Americans trust to guide them through the day's forecast. His voice is warm and steady, his smile genuine, but what viewers may not realize is that the calm they sense comes from those quiet moments hours earlier. The storms he describes on the map, cold fronts sweeping across the Midwest, rain gathering along the coasts, are part of the natural rhythm of the world, just like the storms people face in their own lives. With age, Al has come to understand that resilience is not about avoiding those storms, but about learning how to meet them with steady footing. The morning ritual helps him do exactly that. After the show ends and the studio lights dim, he often reflects briefly on the broadcast during the ride home. Some days feel smooth and effortless, while others carry unexpected challenges, but the beginning always remains the same: silence, reflection, gratitude. Deborah sometimes asks how the show went, and he answers with a simple smile, knowing that the most important part of the day happened long before the cameras turned on. For Al Roker, those quiet pre-dawn moments have become more than a habit. They are a gentle reminder that no matter how loud the world becomes, a person can still begin each day in peace, carrying that calm forward into everything that follows.